district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? We are back in the GOAT District where winners come to hang. And tonight's no different, man. Last week from the Roto Underworld, we had Josh Larkey, the code breaker himself, Mr. Player Profiler, and he dropped some straight fires. I mean, Theo, Dan, straight fire last week on the rookies from our boy Josh.
Yeah, that was a great show.
So if you missed that, make sure you go to last week, check it out. We talked rookies, everything post NFL draft to help you in Dynasty. We called it the Dynasty War Room. Tonight, we're doing redraft. And like we do it every week on the district, we're doing it big. Theo, I'm going to let you walk our guest in tonight. He's one of your big gets from this offseason. So you've been on a roll, man. So I got to let you walk our man in tonight.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure to have Chris Vaccaro on the show. He's an NFFC Hall of Famer. I believe it's one of 10 guys, Chris, or 11 guys in the Hall of Fame now?
I think we're about there, 9, 10 now. Yeah, with the addition of Chris Ebel this past couple of weeks. Yeah. Yeah,
so Chris is one of the best players in the entire country. He won the NFFC Primetime, which is for FFPC guys. That's the equivalent of the main event for the NFFC. 3-time top 10 finisher in the Primetime. And he also writes a tremendous article, weekly column in The Athletic, which is some really great stuff for the high stakes world of fantasy. It's kind of a different, refreshing look at fantasy. It's not your cookie cutter column. It's a great column. So we're really happy to have him in the GOAT District talking a little redraft.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have played in a league against Chris, and he's a tough man to beat. I mean, just sitting in the draft room with him, watch him at the other end of the, we were at opposite ends. Chris is on one end of the horn, I'm on the other end, and every time I'm watching him, just like double tap value down there, I'm like, God, it just sucked.
It's the only way to do it, double tap.
Yep.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate the kind words, and you are all great players yourselves, and I'm looking forward to the show, and thanks for having me on, and let's have some fun and get into this here.
Yeah, man, for sure. For anyone who's kind of tuning in, we're a little behind schedule, but in the district, man, we run the schedule, so we're right on time. So pay attention. We're talking all kinds of goodness. Chris, I'm going to come back to you. Just let's start with The Athletic. How long you've been writing there? Tell us about what people can expect if they're not already familiar with your work. Which, if you're not, people go and sign up to The Athletic right now, so you can check out Chris's work. But just give our listeners an idea what they can find, what you focus on, and any other goodness you want to share about the platform.
Yeah, guys, I'm going into my third year now with The Athletic. It was, a perfect match for me. They give me the ability to, write freely every week. It's a little bit of everything, It's a look back on the past week, a look ahead. I'll be writing starting in July, straight through the summer, getting, my readers ready for the upcoming season, trying to break down boards. I think Theo said it pretty well in the opening. I try and write, and even my podcast, I try and I guess I go a little differently off the script. I I kind of forget that there's an audience out there sometimes, and it's just like I'm trying to talk to my friends out there and try and break down draft boards, and I try and keep it interesting for the readers and the listeners, and give my view from a high stakes point of view, to everybody. So it's a little different spin on what I guess you're usually used to listening to and reading.
Maybe going back to, the guys highlighted, obviously, Hall of Fame, it doesn't get any better than that. Maybe give us an idea of your fantasy career, like how you got into it, how long you've been playing, and how you got to the peak of the mountain, I guess you could say.
It's a little bit of an interesting story, I guess. I started real young in high school. I was obsessed trying to find, I'm 41 years old right now, so you could do the math with that. We were still trying to break out pens and, doing scoring over the weekend on our pens and pads at that point. So I was just obsessed with football. And then when fantasy started becoming big in high school and in college, I was just trying to get in every league possible that I could find. I think I was about 23, 24 years old where I opened up a fantasy football magazine and I saw the advertisement for the NFFC, a live event. And I said, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I wanted to, I wish that something like this would happen, would come along, and it did. And I remember being a young kid walking into that ballroom in New York City, first time at 24 years old. I look around, there's 10 draft tables set up, there's 100 and something people in there. It was like Christmas morning, guys. The rest is history right there. Once I was hooked, and from there, that was about 2004, 2005. I actually had immediate success, and I thought, all right, I got a little cocky. And I sit there and I win my league the first year. And then I struggled after that for 2 or 3 years. And I said to myself, all right, why am I struggling? I got to do something to switch this up. And it was about 2008, 2009. I started looking at the game. I thought it started changing a lot more towards a pass happy, league. I said, okay, you know what? Everybody is so locked in as like a dinosaur here at these live drafts and everything that it's just running back, right off the start. And I said, well, why don't we flip this a little bit? In the NFFC, you can, there you go. In the NFFC, you can decide where you want to draft. And at that point, I said, let me go to the end of the first round every time I can get a chance to get my double pick. And then I always had the first pick of the third round, which is how they did third round reversal. The LaDainian Tomlinson rule came into effect. And at that point, when I was doing it in 08 and 09, going receiver right off the bat, you get 3 out of the top 4 receivers off the board because everybody was still so running back heavy. So that's just, where it started, 08, 09. I started doing that approach, had success with that. Everything started changing for me. And then had a couple top 10 finishes those years. And in 2012, boom, it all came together for me with that approach. And I hit the overall, and the rest is history, I guess.
That's awesome, man. Your description of walking into that room reminds me of 2 things that happened in Vegas. One is World Series of Poker. The first time you walk into that main room, man, it's just bananas, like a sea of people. And then Dan was there the first time I went to the FFPC live in Vegas. Same thing, man. You walk in and you're like, you got tables everywhere, drafts going on everywhere, the girls at the boards, and it's just a good time, man. So that's cool.
There's nothing better than walking into those live drafts in New York, Vegas. Every year it really is Christmas morning. It's the day that I look forward to the most every year. It's a little different now. Back in the day, like I said, in those days, you'd walk into the live drafts, there'd be 10, 12 tables set up. Theo, now, last bunch of years in New York City, now that we have the online option to draft every night, these teams come late August and September, more, people are choosing to go that way. So it's a little bit of less of a live crowd, but still gets my blood boiling, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was kind of funny to watch the expressions on all 3 of our faces when you were talking about walking into that draft room for the first time. I mean, if you've never been to a live event, you owe it to yourself to get out there and try one out. I mean, there's just nothing like that feel of a high stakes draft about to go off, and tables set up everywhere, and it's fantastic.
You get an absolute rush. There's nothing better. I mean, Vegas for FFPC and NFFC, and NFFC having New York, it's just nothing better. It gets your blood boiling. You get to see names with the faces of the people you've competed against in previous drafts. I always enjoy that. And then you get a real camaraderie because of the high stakes aspect. There's not a lot of people doing what we're doing. And there's no harder competition in fantasy football. People love to talk about how hard my league is. Well, show up and draft with Dan Williamson and Chris Vaccaro, and then come tell me how hard your league is. It really, really sharpens you, and it's absolutely nothing better. If you're a fantasy footballer, you got to try it 1 year. It's nothing better than those live drafts.
Absolutely. And you know what? We keep coming back, and people say, hey, listen, you could stay online and maybe get some lesser, competition and pick and choose your players. But going to these live events in New York and Vegas, you know who you're going to go up against. You know where you're going to see, the guys that I'm looking at right now, and the Edelmans and the Lowies and the Billy Wazes of the world, and all the great players, the Chad Schroeders, all the high stakes guys that we all know. And we know, listen, it's ego involved. Sometimes we want to sit down at that table with those guys and feel like we're the best at it, and go up against them and challenge ourselves every year. And that's why we prep now and in these past couple months and leading all the way up to August and September, because you can never be too prepared.
Yeah. You're not going to outwork very many people at those live drafts.
That's for sure.
People go there loaded with info, right? There's what's the bare knuckle one where you're basically going with nothing?
Oh, I love the bare knuckle. I love the bare knuckle, JD. We did that live. And Theo, were you there doing the bare knuckle a couple years back?
I have not done the bare knuckles, and I do. And I have this conversation with Dan. I don't do the bare knuckles, and I don't do the live auctions. But I'm
oh my God, that's a whole nother.
Listen,
I am so addicted to auctions. I can't believe you don't do auctions. God damn,
I do auctions. Oh
yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, for me, an auction is just and Dan's an unbelievable auction player. I know you are as well. But for me, it's so draining. I could do. Oh yeah. I like to do the gauntlet on that Saturday. The NFFC. I do the classic, the primetime, and the silver bullet back to back. And the night before, I always did the primetime, and now I'm in the New York Super with you. So it's live draft. Then the next day, live draft. That's enough for me. I know you guys like doing that daytime auction to kick off the day, and that is, to me, it's like, gosh, I can't even imagine doing two high stakes auctions, and then having to do two redraft leagues.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And now they offered the for the first time ever the New York Super auction, which is at the middle of the day on that Friday live, after the 11 a.m. auction, and then right into a prime time, and then right into the New York Super, which, Theo, correct me if I'm wrong, we've been saying it for years, and not just because we're in it. It's the toughest league that I've ever seen and part of. There's 4 or 5 Hall of Famers in it. The other guys that aren't Hall of Famers are like Nelson Sousa and Glenn Lowy. Like, it's a loaded field. Value is gone by the 6th round. You could forget about it. It's just an unbelievable league. But just real quick, back to, I was late to the auction scene. Maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I got into it. I am so obsessed and love doing auctions almost as much as, if not as redraft. If there's an auction, I'm jumping in it. But between that auction and that bare knuckles, which was the craziest draft I've ever been a part of, it's there's so many different options right now, and we're addicted to all of them.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, because actually this is reminding me, Dan, I think this is literally how you and I started talking. I was kind of reaching out about going to, kind of letting people know I was going to the FFPC. You chimed in, and then I started asking you questions. But I'll say this, because I went down there and I did an auction. I asked Dan, I was going back and forth. Do I do a live draft? Do I do an auction? But I was not an auction guy at that point when I was down there. So my suggestion is, especially if you're going down there and you're not necessarily like a high stakes player, like you're buying into a bunch of these high stakes leagues, maybe you have 1 or 2 buy-ins, bullets. I would suggest do what you're comfortable with, and then go, because that's what I went there and I got smoked, guys. Like honestly, there's like a father-son team that just whooped my ass that the entire draft. Like I just, it's so. That's the only suggestion I would say is go do what you're comfortable with so that you get the most out of it. You enjoy it. Don't go there to learn something new because you're playing with a bunch of sharks. You don't go to the World Series and learn how to play poker, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah. And you know what? In the auction game, you'll take your lumps early if you're just jumping in, with cold feet. My first year doing an auction was rough too. So you got to get a kind of a handle of it. That's for sure. Maybe do a couple auctions, in your home leagues or outside, but you come to one of those tables and people rise that price up. They'll stop playing games with you, and you got to see who's bluffing, who's not, and have a game plan. And not only have a game plan, but just like in redraft, have about 15 backup plans to your original plan, because you know what? Chances are you're going to need it.
Yeah.
100%.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
100%. Shout out to Scott Fish. The Pigs 3 is where I've gotten my auction education with guys like John Bosch, who are just obsessed with auctioning their dynasty startups. But no, I got one last question, Chris, before we get into the goodness. I'm curious, a guy like you, do you have a favorite NFL team?
I do. I'm a pretty diehard New York Giants fan here in New York. I have been since I was a little kid. And I've been lucky enough to get enough Super Bowls and see it, enough of them. We've been struggling for a couple years now, but I love what we're building here in New York with my G-men.
Nice. How do you feel about Daniel Jones?
You know what? There's definitely a lot more people that are higher on Daniel Jones than I am. I don't think he's somebody that could carry your team or your franchise. I think he's nothing more than a game manager. I don't ever see him, taking that next step to being an elite quarterback in the NFL.
He certainly has some weapons here.
Yeah. Let's just dive into the Giants for a quick second. I mean, since we're there already, basically I'm seeing 2 major takes on the Giants. One is Daniel Jones isn't that good. Jason Garrett's a horrible offensive coordinator. This team is going nowhere. It's all going to get Gettleman's a terrible general manager. It's all going to get blown up soon. And then the other take is, they're surrounding Daniel Jones with weapons. They've built up his offensive line. Last year was an aberration. He's got the weapons now. He can succeed. Garrett's going to protect him by, making sure he'll have Saquon around again. Where are you falling on all this, Chris?
I'm more towards the latter of that. I like what they're doing. I like how they built the offseason. I love the Kenny Golladay. I'm a pretty big Kenny Golladay fan. So that's my guy. I'm glad that they got him to be a number 1, because that's what they were lacking, is a legit number 1 wide receiver. No excuses there. They gave him a number 1. Then they go and draft Kadarius Toney in the first round, 20th overall, to give another weapon, which at first, when they made that pick, I said, did we really need a wide receiver here? We have Sterling Shepard and Slayton. We're bringing Barkley back into the mix. We could get into that, the draft. But, the more it grew more on me, honestly. It grew on me. But I like the moves in the offseason, especially on the defensive side, bringing in Adoree Jackson. Hey, listen, they spent money. There's really no more excuses here for the Giants and Daniel Jones coming into this season. So I think they'll be a playoff team this upcoming year.
We're going to start this off. Our boy Trey sends us a little OTC action. So I'll go to you, Chris. Daniel Jones or Wentz, Carson Wentz out there in Indy?
For this upcoming season, I think you got to go Daniel Jones, just because, like I said, the weapons that we just gave him. We got Evan Ingram still for another year at least. And these guys, listen, you put Barkley in that backfield, a fully healthy Barkley, teams are going to focus in on him teams aren't going to, you can't double team our weapons out wide with Slayton and Shepard. There's going to be guys wide open. And then on top of it, Wentz can use his legs as well, but not like Daniel Jones can. Daniel Jones can help you in the with the rushing stats in fantasy as well. So give me Jones over Wentz.
Yep. Yeah, as long as he doesn't trip over that 10-yard line, he's
the 10-yard line monster. Yeah, it got him.
Oh man, it's tripped up more than one player I've seen.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, guys, before we get into the war room, quick reminder, if you're watching, listening, subscribe button right now, the big red one, smash it, smash the reminder button, the little bell, anything that'll help us. A little comment is good. We appreciate all of it. We appreciate you hanging with us. Guys, let's get into the war room, man. We started touching on the draft. Dan is a pro, just segued right into it nicely with his questioning there. The flow is in full effect. Now that it's behind us, Chris, if you're looking at, we talked again about your Giants, but looking at some of your favorite landing spots, maybe give us a couple. We don't want to give too much of your secrets, right? Because you still have some drafts, but give us.
It's early, JD. It's good to have this on now. Because if you ask him,
I got to hope
we're not getting.
People are going to bookmark this thing when they go to New York and they know Chris is in the draft.
August 1st, Dan and Chris are not giving you the real answer. So
I like that. I like that, Chris. I like
Theo,
that.
You're going to forget everything I tell you by late August anyway, right?
That's it. Come to New York Super. Come to New York Super. It's all forgotten.
Like you learn in sales, man. People remember 10% of what you tell them anyway.
All right. I got to tell you guys a quick story. All right. Draft Addict, who does a lot of FFPC, and he's playing in, best balls and everything all summer long. He shows up to one of his Vegas drafts, and one of the people at the table for his draft walks up to him. They've got a notebook, like a spiral bound notebook, this thick, with all of his drafts in there, all of his tendencies and everything. Wow. He's looking at it. He's going, they know things about me I don't even know about me.
100%. Dan, what you just said, believe me, it happens with a lot of people. Yep. I'll speak to players all summer long, and they'll be like, 2 months ago in the 14th round, you took, Mike Smith, and why did you take him over that? And I'm like, what? I'm like, are you serious? And then the things that happen in this high stakes market are really crazy. But Dan, like you just said, there are people that I know that keep track of other players, who they're picking, what's going on. And by the time September comes in these big drafts, they can look across the table at you and say, all right, it's the 4th round. You want, player A or player B. And you're like, wow, you're right.
It's an old poker trick too, man. You take notes of guys at the table,
Yeah. And you know what? If you start thinking like that at the draft table and you're worrying about everyone else, and who they want and who they like, it's tough. It's tough to work that way. I try and worry about myself.
Yep.
I think that comes into play when you know what your competitor, just say like, Theo, like the New York Super. By the time we get to that table, everyone's going to try and position themselves going, okay, I want that 6th spot, that 6th seat, because I know that player A, B, and C want to be in the back end and they want these 3 guys. And then it's just everybody starts trying to, it's one of those, we'll save that for another time. But yeah, there's a lot of that goes on.
But I love that you said that, Chris, because we talk about that often. I even asked Dan, Theo, because we do a lot of best balls. And it's like I don't personally look at anyone else's team when they're drafting, but then you'll see like the guy right before you obviously trying to snipe you, and he went totally out of his way, messed up his whole roster construction. And you're like, I didn't even want to go there, but and I feel like that's why I find it's interesting that you're saying that with the success you've had, because that's something we keep coming back to is focus on your own team, your own construction. You want to see what's happening in the draft, so you know where to take specific positions or guys, that kind of thing. But I like that you said that.
Yeah, and it's all about preparation and what I said earlier about having so many different plans going into each draft. I could be in that 12th seat and have that 12th and 13th pick. You got to have multiple options in that 7th round. You got to know, okay, listen, I plan on having these 3 running backs to choose from and these 5 receivers to choose from. And if they're not there, what's plan B? And how do I have those guys in order? And then attack. Each round is a different draft plan that you got, that you got to look at. So there's so much that goes into this, guys. You guys know. But you got to, at the end of the day, like you said, JD, you got to just worry about your team.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. Most of the value of knowing what other people are doing is just knowing when you need to strike for guys that will help your own build, rather than, if you're out there trying to hurt somebody else's build, you just became the rake.
Yeah. And there's nothing more important than knowing the whole entire draft board inside out, and knowing, all right, I'm at pick 47, and when I get to pick, 65, I need some running backs here, but there's only 4 left that I like, just sizing up the whole draft board. And knowing if I don't get those 4 running backs, now I got to switch back. I got to go to a wide receiver heavy approach. Maybe this is a team that I got to, I'm going to take that elite top 5 quarterback at that point. And now I'm going to look down the board 5 rounds from now, and what running backs am I liking as my late guys as running backs? That's how I'm going to build this team on the fly. And you got to be, like I said, again, adjust on the fly at that draft table.
Yep.
I know we're supposed to talk rookies and stuff, but this is like, you're not asking.
Sorry, I know I get all over the place.
We're chasing rabbits, but it's good.
I was gonna say, it's like running into Joe Rogan and not asking him to do a reverse. What does he do? A reverse jump kick or whatever? That he's like one of the best in the world. That like guys like GSP are learning from him. So I got to pick your brain. Do you do best balls?
Yeah. Throughout the summer, I do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you do best balls as a way to get yourself prepped? I think I spoke to Abib Agbatoba, who's the back football guys championship winner, and he'll do a couple of best buys just to get himself prepped. Do you find yourself doing those, or are you more getting into those football guys and getting into the RotoWires?
The online.
Prepped?
Yeah, Theo, good question. I treat the online championships as practice. Leading in, I start in June, late June. I'm not a drafter who goes early like right now. I like to get, my information. I can look at all these draft boards. There's so much now that's, out there. I can study my draft boards without entering these contests, put myself in spots, and I use and go from there until I'm comfortable enough to say, okay, I know exactly what I want to do, and my different options when I'm in that actual draft, and get in them in late June and early July, and then go from there. That's the online championship. But for the best balls and the draft champions, I'll start those and I'll use those as practice as well. But it's a totally different type of draft, as you guys know. The best balls, the draft champions. Compared to when online championship season starts, and then after that, main event season. Yeah.
That's one of the things I have to really work on is, when I'm doing a lot of best balls, and then all of a sudden I happen to an FFPC, football guys or whatever, I've got to switch gears, because what's working for, best ball is not going to work for that.
Well, Dan, you threw me into that 150 on that Friday night, and I had been doing best balls galore, and I made that one pick. I don't remember who it was now, but I even told you, I was totally in best ball mode, and I think I double tapped 2 receivers on the same team or something, and I was like, I do not need to do that, but
they're totally different builds of teams.
Totally.
Best balls compared to online championships. And I think a lot of people actually still struggle with that, like you just said, JD, because they see the ADP, early in draft season, and they go, oh my God, this guy is going, 65th overall. And then you get into online championship season, and all of a sudden now he's 85th overall. Well, why? Because now all the quarterbacks, everybody's trying to jump on those quarterbacks early with best ball. So you have 2 or 3, starters, there, and it messes up the ADP. So I try not even to look at ADP at this point right now. I know online championships just started in the NFFC, the FFPC. They've been going now for a little bit. You can look at that.
Well, guys,
I wouldn't even. I don't even look at the draft champions ADP unless I'm in a draft champions and I want to get a good feel.
So when this is what I meant to ask you earlier. Sorry, when I asked you if you did best balls. The whole point of asking you that was when you're walking in, or whether you're doing these best balls or when you're walking into these big money leagues live, are you not using a ADP? Do you have your own rankings? Do you do tiers? Like, what is your tool that you're bringing in there?
Yeah, I do sit down in August, and I'll start doing my rankings for the main event season. So I have that, and then I'm using the ADP, but I use the ADP late in the draft season because I'm not concerned what it is in June and July. I don't care. Everything changes. Once these teams get to camp and players start shooting up and down boards, that I'll go into that and use the latest ADP. Towards the end of the season, along with my rankings, and that's what I'm comparing. I don't care what the ADP is in terms of if a guy is my guy and he's going in the 5th round, and I want him in the 3rd round, and I know I see his ADP is trending up towards the 4th. Well, guess what? Now I know I got to jump quicker. So I'm using the ADP just to see how the flow of the players are going. Throughout the summer. Are they going up? Are they going down? Do I have to jump around to get my hands on that guy? Or can I sit back and take a shot, letting him go an extra round for me to get him?
Yeah, that's so critical. I mean, because as you know, when you get to Vegas or when you get to New York City, you see players literally jumping from draft to draft to draft, as day by day goes by. And you'll see certain players getting pushed up and up and up the draft boards, and other players getting pushed down and down and down. So for me, one of the big things I'm looking at is when I walk into a draft room in Vegas, I want to know, for my guys, the guys that I'm most interested in getting, if they're one of those players that's jumping up, where's the point where I'm bailing on them, where right. I'm going, that price is too rich and I'm going to let somebody else have them. And then for the guys who aren't necessarily my guys, but all of a sudden the price maybe becomes right because they drop, down to a certain point, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, that's a value, and I probably better jump on it. Even if I'm not totally sold on the player, sometimes it's, some of my best players have come from guys I'm not totally sold on, but everybody's allowed them to drop far enough down the board where all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna take this player. It's a dangerous game doing that, but sometimes it does work out.
100%.
So
yeah, like you just said, I'm sorry, 100%. That's why when people say, "Oh, that guy's off my board completely," there's not many guys I'm going to say going into a draft that he's completely. You might not like certain players, but you know what? Value is value.
It's all relative,
and sometimes it works. And just like you said, Dan, so that's a great point.
I don't hate players. I hate ADPs. That's it.
There you go.
At some point, every single guy is a value. At some point, every single guy is a value. And I think that, like Dan touched upon, and Chris as well, you'll see these guys as you get closer to the kickoff. And in NFFC and FFPC, we're drafting after the Thursday kickoff. You'll see guys just shoot up the board. And like Dan said, you have to find a fine point where the guy is now a guy you don't want to touch. I mean, a guy like Kenyon Drake last year. Kenyon Drake kept moving up and up and up, and he was kind of a value at, a perceived value at 24, 25. But now we get into the big drafts right before the season, and he's going 11. Avoiding Kenyon Drake would have been a great move. I mean, there's a couple guys we can talk about like that. So, definitely the ADP kind of goes out the window, and you've got to kind of get your guys, but don't fall on that sword just to get the guy that's shooting up.
Yep, for sure.
And we talk about when we were in Vegas, Dan, Kareem Hunt had his first game on the Thursday night, KC, New England. And the next day Friday were when all the live drafts were starting. And I remember just pictures of the draft boards were just flying everywhere because he was going 101, 102 ahead of Zeke. People are freaking out. Like, what the hell? It's fun, but it makes it fun.
And here's the thing.
Do you guys enjoy drafting after that Thursday opener? Do you enjoy it, first off? And do you enjoy it more or less than before, that Thursday opener, because that Thursday opener is crazy how everybody's mind gets so changed for the whole entire season based on that one game, ADP wise. It's just like the year Peyton Manning, threw 7 touchdowns. People were taking him first overall the next day, but hey, he was a 3rd rounder the night before. But everybody wants those points. So now all of a sudden, you're signing up for those points to bag them. But you know what? There's 16 more weeks after that. So I don't know how you guys feel about drafting after. I feel like it's, just personally, I put all these months of prep into drafting a certain draft board to get it all thrown out the window for, 2 days over one game. So I'll draft a couple teams after that, Thursday nighter, but I prefer beforehand.
I don't mind after. Yeah, I don't mind after just because of the fact that, there's, people are making those big swings. And, so that can be an advantage if you're willing to, stick to your guns. Right. And sometimes it's just a matter of, looking at the information at hand and saying, well, this definitely needs to change how I was perceiving that player. Like Peyton Manning, I had him kind of the same as you, Chris. He was a 3rd rounder before that. But then when I'm in FFPC leagues where there's only an 11-game regular season, and this is one of those 11 games, that to me weighed even heavier than the NFFC. And it's like if you can get that one guaranteed win, and you've seen that, okay, yeah, Manning in Denver, this is gonna be smoking. It kind of changes the calculus a little bit. Like, JD was talking about the Kareem Hunt game. I was doing an FFPC auction right after that, and this is the $2,500 auction, and I'm in the auction, and one of my best friends is going to be my opponent week 1, and so we both are just like gunning for the win, right? So
salivating over Kareem Hunt.
Loading up for week 1.
Kareem Hunt and Zeke Elliott, both of us are like, the rest of the league is entirely dropped out, and there's me and him just bidding because we're like, if one of us gets both of these guys, it's going to suck, like we're going to lose the first week. So both of us, I knew what he was thinking. He knew what I was thinking. We're like, I have to get this guy up to the point where it's too expensive for him to take both, and he has to get the other guy up to the point where it's too expensive for me to take both, which is what happened. So I ended up with Kareem Hunt. I would have rather been with Zeke Elliott, but that's the way it goes.
But did you get the week 1 win though, Dan? That's
the only one that
what mattered at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Bragging rights.
All right. So here's the point where I have to make my confession. I had 50 points out of Kareem Hunt, and he fucking beat me on week 1.
No.
Oh my God. The rest of my team shit the bed.
I wish I had my soundboard right now.
Double whammy.
That's okay. I still finished ahead of him in the entire league. So
there you go. It had a happy ending.
Yes. There you go.
It had a happy ending.
Chris is fitting right in here. I gotta say, we have technical difficulties to start, so it fits right in right off the bat. We're already off the show sheet, like way off the show sheet. See, he's fitting in perfectly. It's awesome.
Show sheet? What show
sheet?
Show
sheet? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know what, guys? Like I said, that's the way. Myself and Nando DeFino, who is the co-host of my pod for the Athletic. We don't even do a show sheet half the time. We're like, you know what? We're going to go so off of it anyway, 5 minutes into the show, and then just talk about everything and anything left and right for over an hour. That what's the point? We never stick to the script. So I knew you guys were getting that in me, trying to, but I will try and stay
which is funny because I literally put the show sheet together for the guests because we're like, we pretty much know what we're going to talk about, and we have an idea and all that kind of stuff. But Nando DeFino, that's like a poker name from the past right there. He used to do commentating for it.
Yeah, for really?
Pretty sure.
For that, yeah. I didn't look at that. I didn't even.
Yeah,
know.
I'm pretty sure back in the day I used to listen to him. He did commentating for some poker tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that voice for radio. That's he was a big Sirius XM guy and everything for years. So that's he's done a lot in this industry.
He's great on that. He's great on that pod with you. And I enjoy some of the articles about. I'm not even a card guy, but I like reading the card articles. It's good, interesting stuff. JD's a big card guy.
I bust his chops with those cards because he loves them. It's
whole other rabbit hole. All right, guys. Before we get back to going off the rails here, we got to give a shout out to our supporters, our partners, the FFPC. You guys hear us talk about it often on the show. MyFFPC.com. If you're not already on there, I mean, right now everything's popping. You got best balls anywhere from $5 all the way to where we at, Dan? $12.50, I think, is the max. You've got the Dynasty startup starting at $77. Those are popping. They go up all the way to the nosebleeds. 2,500, is it, or 5,000?
I
always forget the max on that one.
Dynasty,
I think it's 25.
5,000. I think there's a 5,000.
I think they have the 5,000. They have one 5,000 in the league right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully Alex isn't listening, and I'll get my facts straight before the next episode.
But I'll tell you what, if you're playing in the $5,000 league, you know about it already.
Yeah, true that.
If you're not,
true that. And then the main event, man, we're talking tonight main events, just under $4 million in prize money, 500 Genos, $500,000. I say it often, man. If you can go home, and I'm sure Chris can attest to this, you go home to the wife with a check like that, man, she will love the fact that you play fantasy football. I guarantee it. And then the Football Guys Championship, guys, that's what brought me to the FFPC. Right now, they've got the early bird promos for both the main event and the Football Guys. You get a free $35 FFPC credit that you can use towards best balls, Dynasty, whatever you want. And that ends on May 31st. All right, we're going to try to get back into the war room. We're going to reel it back here. We're going to bring it back to these landing spots. So, Chris, do you have a couple landing spots that kind of stand out in your mind that you really like from this draft?
Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, the obvious ones right off the bat, a lot, Kyle Pitts to Atlanta, just making that offense what I feel is a top 5 offense in football now, as long as Julio stays in town. I love that one. Najee, Najee Harris going to Pittsburgh. Everybody had that there. That's a perfect landing spot to control the backfield. I love that. But there's certain other ones that, I think like Penei Sewell going to Detroit, that makes me be like, all right, I'm loving DeAndre Swift this upcoming year just to help the offensive line and build that team. You could see the way they're trying to, the coach that they brought in, the offensive line that the Lions actually have is really impressive. And to add Sewell right there, that helps other players. So I love that. And I love the kid Elijah Moore from Ole Miss going to the Jets early in the second round. I think he's a future star. I don't know if you guys saw the video clip of when he got drafted and AJ Brown and him talking, and AJ Brown telling him, "Yo, you've always been better than me." I mean, that is scary. I don't know if he was just giving him, but you want to tell him that, you've always been better than me. I mean, the Jets I loved what the Jets did in the draft. The whole draft. I loved what they did their first 4 rounds, so those are some of the best landing spots, and I'll throw it back to you, JD.
Does that include Wilson?
I'll be honest with you. I thought they made the wrong move. I said to myself, all right, you got the second overall pick. You should hold on to Sam Darnold. He's a young quarterback that people hate on Darnold, but if you just look at what they did, they didn't give him any weapons. They didn't, he was always banged up. I think Darnold is an above average NFL quarterback, and I think they should have built around him instead of just, they pretty much made a lateral move with Wilson. Right. Bringing him and taking the second. All right, so you just started over, but you already had a young franchise quarterback that you could have built around. Give him, you want to go out and sign Corey Davis. You want to go and stack the offensive line now these last couple of years, and then, take the kid from Ole Miss in the second round. Give Darnold a shot with all these weapons, and then take that number 2 overall pick and, hey, go take Kyle Pitts, number 2 overall, and give him another.
Or trade it for a boatload of picks. I mean, either way.
100% right there. You could have got 2 first rounders So I loved what the Jets did, throughout the whole draft.
Yeah, I mean, I would have had a hard time passing on Lance or Fields over.
I agree.
Yeah. Zach Wilson is just, to me, I think he's the fourth best quarterback in the draft. I don't know.
100% agree with that, Dan. And I thought Justin Fields should have been the number 2 overall pick the whole time.
Fantasyland agrees with you guys because it's Zach Wilson and then Mac Jones basically is that order when you're drafting, especially Superflex.
Yep.
Well, you know what's crazy to me? I'll just say this quick. I'm a big college football guy, and we had the semifinal playoff, and Fields puts on a show, and he beats Clemson and Trevor Lawrence, and if you heard the people talking that week, it was like, could Fields be number 1 overall pick over Lawrence? These two guys are locked in 1 and 2,
mm-hmm.
And then the championship game happened. He had the rib injury and everything like that. Still performed well. They lose and everything to a great Alabama team, but okay. What changed? What games were played? Did I miss any games that, all these scouts saw? All of a sudden, Fields was becoming Chris Sims was saying, Justin Fields could fall to the second round. What happened? What, the underwear Olympics happened? And all of a sudden,
process maybe? I don't know.
Even with the underwear Olympics, I mean, where did Fields lose out in that?
Exactly. It was the biggest mystery to me that I didn't feel people were talking about enough, that those two guys were locked in 1 and 2 in January. And then all of a sudden Fields just kept falling and falling. And here comes Trey Lance out of nowhere, North Dakota. I think Fields will be the second best quarterback in this class 5 years from now.
He could be.
I feel like these NFL teams are all kind of chasing that next small school guy and looking for that next small school guy to break out. And I feel like with the Wilson profile, I feel like a lot of teams are trying to chase that Pat Mahomes. I mean, certainly no Pat Mahomes to me, but I think teams are trying to find that perfect fit where, we're all football guys. We all see Justin Fields, and it's like, how can you pass on that guy? Mm-hmm. And just from a marketing perspective, every single kid on Long Island would be wearing a Justin Fields Jets jersey this week if he was drafted there. I'm not seeing too many Wilson jerseys for the kindergartners coming out of my local school. But I was ready to get those Justin Fields jerseys for them. I'm not even a Jets fan, but I think he would have been tremendous. But back to Wilson, they certainly have an idea of what they're doing. The Corey Davis edition, Denzel Mims on the outside. And then, I think Elijah Moore could be a 70 catch guy as a rookie. I think he's the real deal. And I know, Chris, you also like Michael Carter. You want to talk about him a little bit?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Love Michael Carter, especially where they got him early 4th. I think he could step in right now. I mean, they got Tevin Coleman. They signed him in the offseason, but I think Carter will have that job by midseason. I see where he's going in drafts right now, right after the NFL draft, where he's going in fantasy drafts. And I was like, all right, well, everybody needs to pump their brakes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him going in like the 70s overall. And I said, all right, listen, that's a little too rich for my blood. I love the kid for a future, but I don't know right off the bat if he's going to steal that job. But yeah, I do. I like Carter. And the other North Carolina running back, Javonte Williams, I just don't like the landing spot. I don't love the landing spot. I still think, with Melvin Gordon ahead of him, but, I know I'm jumping around here, guys, but the Falcons at 35 overall, I think it was early in that second round, had the perfect opportunity to take him and let him take over the show in Atlanta, and they trade to Denver, who then takes the kid. That was
right in front of Miami too.
Say it again.
And right in front of Miami too. And Miami could have used him without a doubt. So that was a super interesting trade to me.
Yeah.
And here's I've kind of thrown this by JD already.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it, but go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, is George Patton is he playing chess when we're all playing checkers? He signed Mike Boone, and then he jumps up to take Javonte Williams, what are the odds that Melvin Gordon is still a Bronco in week 1?
All right, that's a good question, Dan. I'll jump in and answer that first. Here's the thing. Here was my thinking with that. Melvin Gordon, he had that that DWI in the middle of last season, right? I think that soured the front office of Denver, and they're looking for a way to get him out of town. And I think you could be right that they could be cutting him, as
trading him,
casualty, or trade him or whatever. Because I am a big Mike Boone fan also, and that would be a dynamite 1-2 punch there with Williams, the rookie, and Boone, and then you move on from Gordon altogether. So that's a good outlook.
And Peyton was the assistant GM in Minnesota, which is, of course, where Boone came from. So, I mean, Peyton definitely knows what Boone is about. So there's that. And then if you designate Gordon as a post-June 1st cut, you save like $2.4 million off the cap. I mean, he's still getting, you still got $6 million in dead cap, but you got $8.4 million in what he would cost you on the contract. So you're saving 2.4. Not that Denver necessarily needs the savings, but still, I mean, it's just, one other thing.
Yeah.
And when Boone is basically free too. Sorry, Theo. Like Boone's literally free back end of rookie drafts right now, 5th round dish. You can pick them up, throw them on the back end of your the nice thing about grabbing these rookie guys later in your rookie drafts is you're going to know before the season starts, like where it's at in that backfield. Is Gordon still there or not? You don't have to hold these guys all season if they're not going to be significant.
Yeah, exactly. Boone is such a great pickup right now. If you can stash him on the back end of a roster and just wait and see what happens, because everybody, as soon as Devonta Williams went to Denver, everybody was like, "Oh, Boone. He's done. He's that was a wasted pick, for best balls and everything."
He's the Traquan Smith of running backs, man. Come on.
So let's a couple more. We're talking about spots that we think are great spots. Couple players that terrifies me and excites me a lot is Rondale Moore to Arizona. Because I think he's such a good fit for that offense, but the injury history also is, a little bit terrifying.
And the side.
Yeah. I mean, if he stays healthy, I think he could be huge in that offense. And another one I really, really like is Terrace Marshall in Carolina, going back to his old offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. I mean, I think Marshall could go to the moon in a year.
Great call, Dan. That was actually going to be the next guy that I brought up. Was Marshall from LSU. Listen, Curtis Samuel comes out of that offense, moves on to Washington in the offseason. One DJ Moore injury or Robbie Anderson injury from this kid making an instant impact every week, in that offense. So I like him. I like him even, to play a nice role his rookie season as the third receiver there, along as a complement to DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. So, yeah, I like that a lot.
So Chris, just to sit on that for a second, are you now maybe not drafting Robbie, or does Robbie become a value? Because I feel like Robbie's becoming a value. Like some of these spots where like Freiermuth ends up in Pittsburgh and people are going to shy away from Ebron. Does Robbie become a value in drafts now because people are going to write him off now that Elijah's there? Or are you just like going to kind of stay away? You think Elijah's going to take that role over?
Well, you're talking Terrace, not Elijah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
My God! Yeah. Wow, sorry guys. Wow,
yeah. I was like,
total break. Sorry, man. I was looking at Chris's face too. I'm like, what? Did I mispronounce someone's name? Sorry, man. I was looking at something and I totally said the wrong name, but I apologize. So yes, Terrace Marshall. I apologize.
Yeah.
Does Robbie become a value for you, or does he become an avoid? I guess is the short.
It all depends on the price. I still like Robbie Anderson. This upcoming year. To be honest with you, though, and I'll let this cat out of the bag, DJ Moore, I think with Sam Darnold slinging it to him, I love DJ Moore this upcoming year to have a big bounce back season. Right. So, that's an offense that, it looks pretty good on paper. McCaffrey will be back healthy. Robbie Anderson is just about as good as a number 2 wide receiver you can have. And, Terrace Marshall coming along. It makes that offense complete. So, it's a pretty nice offense that they're building in Carolina yet again.
Don't forget,
fantasy-wise, Carolina, it's a perfect storm because, one of the biggest things I look at is, hey, is your defense trash on the other side of the ball? Are we going to be playing these weekly high-scoring back-and-forth games? Like, I don't want your defense to be any good. I don't want an elite defense on the other side of the ball where we're in 14-10 games. Tell me you're giving me the ball back quick and your defense is crap, because Carolina's defense is garbage.
It's a good point.
I think Curtis Samuel vacates 97 targets, so it'll be interesting to see which way it goes. I mean, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore were pretty equal in terms of output last year. You got to think DJ Moore gets targeted more this year. He's 24 years old. It's you kind of feel like that big season's coming. But to get back to Terrace Marshall, and I know you and Dan are big fans of him, it seems a little bit like T. Higgins landing in Cincinnati last year, where and he went a little higher in the second round. I think that the injuries pushed Terrace a little bit to the later second, but it's a very similar early breakout, big, strong guy profiles like a wide receiver one. And it could very well be kind of that missing link for that offense and be just a real threat. Not a whole lot of tight end position. You got to figure it's going to be a lot of the wide receivers getting targeted there. So I love that call. And then getting back to Rondale Moore, I mean, it's an ideal landing spot. I think Dan nailed it. If it was going to be one team that you'd want him to land on, it would be a team where they're going to play 4 wideouts. He's going to be able to play the slot, and it seems like they're really looking for a secondary target to DeAndre Hopkins. I think Rondale Moore could be a really, really productive player as a rookie, and I think he'll have a couple of smash games where he could go get loose for about 2 touchdowns. I like that one. And for me, Jamar Chase. I mean, Jamar Chase, I think we have to look at Jamar Chase as locked in wide receiver 2 in redraft. I think the guy is going to get 125 targets or more. And I know it's kind of square to talk about it being a great landing spot, but he gets his college quarterback. And, what is your take on Jamar Chase in Cincinnati? Do you think he's going to explode right out the gate here, Chris?
Theo, let me tell you this much about Jamar Chase. A couple of years ago when he was, obviously we all know he didn't play last year. 2 years ago, when I'm watching Jamar Chase, I said, I think this is going to be one of the best receivers of all time. I think he's that unbelievable.
Nice.
And I think we'll be drafting him in the first round of fantasy drafts after this year right away, real quick. That's how special this kid is. I don't know if people, because they didn't see too much of him, last year, so they forgot about him or whatever, but he's that great. One of the best wide receivers in college that I've seen in a long, long time. So I can't hype him up enough. With that said, and him getting Burrow and everything like that, I still was like, I want to protect Burrow a little more, and I'm a Joe Mixon guy, and I want to, maybe get that Penei Sewell to Cincinnati and let Jamar Chase fall after that. But it was a win-win for Cincinnati. Either you were stacking the offense with Higgins and Boyd and putting a real wide receiver 1 there with Chase, or you were going to build that offensive line and protect your all-world quarterback and stud running back. Chase, absolute stud, though. I love him. I just don't know how, it's going to affect Higgins and Boyd's value this upcoming season in fantasy. A lot of times, a situation like this, a guy like Chase comes into the offense and everybody says, oh my God, that's it. I'm out on Boyd and Higgins and let them fall. But you know what? These defenses you have to cover somebody and they can't double team a guy like Boyd anymore or a guy like Higgins on the outside. So there's enough balls to go around where all these 3 guys can eat. And it's another offense that I will be, really looking to invest in this upcoming season as long as Burrow's knee is healthy from day 1.
Yeah, that's going to be the key is what is Burrow's knees health, because one of the things you always worry about at this time of year is that, everybody's always ahead of schedule in their rehab. They're always feeling great. They're just, everything is always rosy. And then you get to, wait July and August, and that's when the truth comes out, right?
Yeah. And then you want to rush it. We don't want to rush him back. He's our franchise, and now August becomes middle of September, and it becomes early October, and now everybody in the offense takes a hit because Burrow isn't there. So that's definitely the number one, concern.
Yeah. Sorry to just add to Burrow. I think going into this season, especially super flex, like he can't be your main guy. He can't be one of your top two guys, in my opinion. If you're going to compete, you're building for future years. If he's one of your two quarterbacks, and just in case you notice, Chris, whenever I say nice, it's because you're talking about a guy drafted in my rookie draft. So I picked up Chase with Burrow in one of my leagues, and I was like loving it.
Fair enough. And before we get too far away from it, I just want to circle back to Carolina one more time real quick and just say, if you can get Robbie Anderson and Terrace Marshall in the same draft, that's a fantastic duo. I mean, you could be talking about, the Candy now and later. This is the wide receiver duo that could be now and later. Robbie Anderson now and Terrace Marshall later. As we get into November and December.
Dan, it's a great point of drafting. You take Robbie Anderson in those middle rounds, and Marshall's going to come a lot later in the draft, and you have yourself. What you do is in fantasy, you have yourself covered. Marshall's now maybe your wide receiver 6 on your fantasy team, but guess what? If your wide receiver 3, Robbie Anderson, goes down, you don't got to say, "Oh, geez, I got to go hit the wire and spend up to try and replace this guy's." Well, now you already have your replacement built in right there. You just look at the end of your bench there, and Marshall now just got a huge boost up.
Yep.
I talked about that strategy last night on Ballin'. We draft Best Ball live on YouTube here, and I talked about I like getting the wide receiver 2, 3, 4, getting 2 of those guys on the same roster in the later rounds, because that whether they interchange per games or parts of the season, or they add up to, let's say, a wide receiver 2, where and that the examples you guys gave are perfect. And there's a few of those offenses right now where you can pick up guys late, like Boyd is definitely going to get pushed down. Maybe you don't have someone to necessarily pair him, but if there's a situation where the rookie's coming in, there's already 3 established receivers. If you can grab that number 3 with the new shiny toy at the 4, those guys are going to add up to a nice receiver 3 or 2. In a good scenario. So that's a nice little strategy.
It's sort of like running back. It's sort of like handcuffing your running back. Well, your wide receiver 2 or 3, and in the 16th round, if you can get an equal, guy that you could see taking that big step up, if that wide receiver 2 and that offense goes down, well, yeah, that's how you build rosters right there.
Yeah. Or it could even be that that wide receiver 3 pushes the 2 to the side, if you got that much talent. And, Terrace might be one of those guys who has that much talent. There aren't many out there, but that's definitely one of the guys I have my eyes on.
Yep, definitely.
It's just also a way of just investing in good offenses. You want guys on your bench that are on good offenses. I mean, last year, a perfect example is, we hear in the preseason Russell Gage is going to be the number 3 wide receiver for Atlanta. Russell Gage, you end up doing this strategy that, Chris and Dan talking about. You take Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley and you add a Russell Gage, you get some very useful weeks right there. So you want to have good offenses, especially on your bench. One more rookie I wanted to get your take on, Chris, Devonta Smith. Your expectations of him in Philly. I know you like him. What did you think about the landing spot and his potential for production there?
I loved the landing spot, and I thought that's where the NFL draft got really exciting. Right at that part of the draft where Horn goes 8, Surtain goes 9 to Denver, throws a wrench in Dallas's plans at 10. They obviously wanted one of those corners. And then they go and make a deal with the devil. They go inside their division. They let Philly go from 12 up to 10 to jump the Giants. So, I mean, it is interesting. Now the story comes out. We all heard it that, the Giants were in love with Devonta Smith. That was their pick at 11. Maybe it is probably true because they moved back right after that and took another wide receiver in Kadarius Toney. So, Maybe they had their heart set on Smith and settled for Tony after that. But I just thought it was interesting. And then but on the flip side, it was like, you know what? You're gonna trade with Philly. You're gonna see this wide receiver and have to deal with him for the next decade. But guess what? If you sat there and you gave him to the Giants, you're gonna still have to see him for the next decade in your division twice a year anyway. So that was really interesting. But I do love the landing spot. I think he jumps right into that offense as the number one wide receiver, along with his college quarterback in Hurts. And that was one of the definite top 3 or 4 landing spots of guys I loved in the first round was Smith to Philly.
Yeah, well, as long as we're talking Alabama wide receivers, let's just hop into Jaylen Waddle. What do you think, Chris?
Not as thrilled as I was with Smith. His landing spot and Chase out of the big 3 wide receivers that went in the top 11 there. Waddle's a really good wide receiver. I think my problem more is with that offense. They bring in Will Fuller. They have Parker. There's a bunch of mouths to feed now in that offense. And on top of it, I'm not a big Tua fan. So I'm not a big
Tua is going to be the big factor. I definitely agree with that. If Tua can take a next step, then this is going to work out. If you want to play that card, then I think the way you want to play that card is you want to draft Fuller. It's just like Robbie Anderson and Terrace Marshall. You want to draft Fuller and you want to draft Jaylen Waddle, because you can get Waddle, not as late as Terrace Marshall, but you can still get him later than Fuller. So,
right. But Dan, right off the bat, first year, you have Devonta Smith over Waddle. Yes or no?
Yeah. First year, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think Waddle is a little bit more of an intriguing play long term. I think he's got the higher ceiling, but I don't think he can get there in the first year.
Agreed.
Yeah, and my concern with Smith is, I'm like, I think Smith has a super high floor, but I'm not sure how high his ceiling is. What do you think about that?
Listen, the first thing that comes up when everybody mentions his name is that size, 165, right. 170, you come across the middle and someone's going to put you on your ass and you might stay down in the NFL because it's not college anymore. But the kid is an unbelievable route runner.
Yes,
and I think they're going to find a way to always get the ball in his hands. And I could see him being one of those, 7 for 70 type wide receivers every week for Philly. They'll get the ball in his hands and he might not. He's not going to put up the numbers he did at Bama, but the competition is less. A lot of times these guys, they just fall into the right situations, the right teams. And that's what I'm saying in terms of Waddle compared to Smith was there's a lot more talent at that receiver position and at the skill positions in Miami, believe it or not, than in Philly nowadays. And that's why Smith, I think, will get a lot more touches and targets his rookie season.
Yeah, I'm a big Smith guy. I think he's got a real chance. He's competitive as hell. He's a great route runner, and they talk about his weight, which is obviously problematic, but he's got this uncanny wingspan. The guy makes all kinds of catches, and I think that he's got some great potential there, and he's going to get 100 or more targets this year. He's going to get probably 125 as long as he stays healthy. So. You got to look at these rookies who are going to get targeted, and I definitely like Smith. And then one other rookie I wanted to get your take on, Chris, Trey Sermon, San Francisco. He's a meteor right now. The guy is just shooting up draft boards, and people are very in Dynasty and also in Redraft. People are very excited about Trey Sermon, and like a lot of minds in the industry that we would respect. They're on the Trey Sermon train. Are you on the Trey Sermon train?
I am on the Trey Sermon train, and you put him behind that San Francisco offensive line, and I'm really on the Trey Sermon train. But you know how Shanahan works his running backs, and it's there's 42 of them over there, and Mozart's here. That you saw last couple of years the way they rotate in and out. Now, do I like Sermon more long term as a fantasy star in the NFL than in his rookie season? Yeah. And I see the price that he's going in some drafts right now. And again, not to be repetitive, but that's a little too rich for my blood right off the bat. So do I like the player? Yeah. Do I like the situation and the team? Yeah. But it might be one of those situations where he's just rotting on your bench for the first, 8-10 weeks of the season while the established veterans ahead of him are getting the play, and Sermon's in there for 5 carries a game. And you can't really do anything fantasy-wise with them. But long-term, Theo, yeah, no doubt. Sermon's going to be the main guy there for a long time. And they moved up for him. They traded, they moved up for him, which is an even sign that how much they love him.
Yeah, it's always a good point when a team moves up.
You just hope he's not the Keyshawn Vaughn of this year, right?
There you go.
Oof. Keyshawn Vaughn, that could be a camp casualty in year 2,
Yeah.
Because where's he going to go? You know what? How many? You bring in Gio Bernard to play the Keyshawn Vaughn role. I mean, where's Vaughn? Has Vaughn made the team? I don't know. That's
Gio.
Well, he's not playing special teams.
No.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
For sure. All right. Sorry, go ahead, Theo.
So Sermon was the second highest draft pick of any running back for Kyle Shanahan. I actually got that today on another pod, and that just kind of blew my mind. Kevin Coleman was the highest drafted one, and now Trey Sermon. So they obviously put a lot into him, and this is I'm on the Sermon train, but I think it'll come to a point where he starts going off the board. 6th round of redraft, you might have to pump the brakes a little.
And that's where I've seen in a couple of drafts him go is that 7th, 8th round. And I'm like, oh, geez. All right. I mean, I thought he'd be a nice little double-digit round pick for me coming up. But, unless he falls further than where he's going now, he won't be on many of my rosters, this year.
Yeah, and that again comes back to the same point we were talking about earlier, which is you just really need to decide, especially as you get into August. Where are my stops? What's my stop on the top? What's my stop on the bottom? How high do I want to take this particular player? How low do I need to go before this other player becomes a value to me? And you got to stick to your guns, and you got to know what you really believe about these players and about these offenses, and stick to what you really think. And if a player keeps driving up the draft board, you just can't keep following up. A la Darrell Henderson a couple of years ago. He was a guy who kept just getting chased up and up and up draft boards to the point where it just became almost ludicrous. And it became a tell. How. If somebody's going to draft him that high, you're kind of finding the rake in your league. So you need to make sure that when you're looking at these players, you can still set a realistic standard for them. What can they realistically do this year? No matter what I think about them long term, what can they do this year for me? In a redraft. And even in Dynasty, you still need to have kind of that a little bit of that redraft mentality of, what can they do this year? Because that's going to influence what is their value going into next year.
Well, especially in formats like FFPC, you don't have that many guys on your bench, man. You're not, you're not stashing your what's that tight end you liked in Jacksonville there, Dan? Oliver.
Josh Oliver.
These guys. And that's why I see some of these guys in these rookie drafts on the FFPC, and they're picking up guys. I'm like, dude, you're seriously going to hold this guy for 2-3 years plus? Like, I'm not holding anyone that's not popping this year. And I was going to say that in the beginning of this whole show, like, if you're in a dynasty, maybe you don't play redraft. This show applies to you because you're listening to us and you're a contender. So if you're a contender, you're playing the season like a redraft, man. I hate to say it. That's at the end of the day, the whole point of us playing is to win the game and to win that trophy. So if I know I'm contending, I'm playing that season like it's a redraft. So all this goodness is applying to you, whether you're playing dynasty or redraft, but especially as a contender going into this season. All right, quick question, because I didn't get to ask Chris before we started this thing. Do you have a hard stop or anything? You have a curfew? You got someone waiting there?
We can go all night, boys.
Nah. Oh, he's going to set that. Fasten your seatbelts, Fantasyland, because we're gonna be here for a while.
We're gonna go through every single rookie on the board, all of them.
I'm joking. I'm just gonna give a quick shout out to our friends over at Viridian Global. I had it at the bottom there. I'll put it back on there, but ViridianGlobal.com/collections/Goat District. Get your Goat gear. We got hats, shirts. I'm wearing this one today. This bad boy. I just got in the mail yesterday. A little JT action. My 101 running back right there. Maybe not 101 anymore. I'll put it maybe at 103, but that's for a whole other show. But no, man, go check them out. Viridian, they got some good gear. You guys drafted rookie drafts, and you've got your favorite rookies. They got awesome shirts, man. Like they got a sweet Jamar Chase. They've got Harris Time. Dan and I are gonna order some matching Harris Times shirts since we drafted them in one of our higher stake leagues. But no, man, just a fun site. Lots of really good, high quality, comfortable. The fit's awesome. Go check it out, man. If you're into football, they've got something over there for you for sure. I'm going to go the other way, Chris. We talked about things we liked, landing spots we liked, teams we liked. You even mentioned Galladay. You know, if we reach out to free agency, who are like some landing spots that maybe you didn't like as much in this draft?
In the draft or in free agency?
We're going to start with the draft, and then we'll go to free agency.
I think the guy that I didn't like the landing spot the most for first round wise in the draft was Travis Etienne. I didn't love it. I was hoping, again, not to bring up the usual suspects, but for him to land with the Jets or the Falcons or the Dolphins, maybe even. James Robinson proved that he could be a bell cow last year. And then you hear Urban Meyer talking about, right away, Etienne will come in and be our third down back. Well, he's your first round draft pick. And if he landed at some other spots, he could have been, the Najee Harris of that team. So I did not love Travis Etienne landing in Jacksonville. That would be my biggest, guy in the first that I didn't love going to a team.
Fresh off the Larkey episode, Theo.
We just had Josh Larkey on last week, and he Travis Etienne is his rookie 101 and thinks he's going to smash in that spot.
No, he loves him. Okay.
Yeah, I think that it remains to be seen. I think Urban Meyer can say whatever he wants, but they used the number 23 overall pick to get him. I think it's his backfield, and I think he's got a very high receiving upside. Okay. So I think it'll be interesting to see as the summer goes along. James Robinson, how committed is the new coaching staff to him? I think that there's a chance he would have been a first round pick if there was no ETN. But now it's looking like, they bring in Hyde, they draft ETN. I'm not sure what to do with James Robinson. But I think you could make the other argument that the landing spot is good because he's with his college quarterback.
Sure.
And, they certainly use the draft capital on him. But, yeah, it would have been a lot easier to get behind him landing with the Falcons or the Dolphins, like you said. So I can see both sides of the coin here with him. He's certainly a very talented player.
Yeah, I mean, I see your points also as well. It's just the James Robinson factor, and like you said, Robinson would have been probably a back end of the first round, second rounder in fantasy. ETN shoots that down, to hell right now for Robinson's fantasy value. But, he's got the college quarterback. They have the chemistry. He's gonna be able on third downs to come in and have that, perfect timing routes and everything out of the backfield and hit him everything. But you're saying you feel that he's going to win the job over James Robinson and be a 3-down back.
I think you're going to see more work. I think it's not going to be 50-50. I think that the ETN will see that. So Robinson, he had a perfect storm last year in terms of he got so many targets. And I don't even think that was his profile. I think it was just the offense was just so limited that he benefited from being so targeted. And he was a very efficient runner. I mean, the guy looked great, but I think that if ETN is going to get targets out of the backfield, is the goal line duties going to drive Robinson's value? I mean, I just think it's going to be more of a 60-40 situation. I'm not sure if either will end up being value. I don't think Robinson's going to disappear. I think he's still going to go into that 7th round, maybe 8th round. It'll be interesting to see where ETN goes. But for me,
he's
I
going to
think
have to
ETN
fall a lot.
outproduces him.
He's going to have to fall a lot then from where he's going now, because he's going in the top 4 rounds mostly in the draft that I've seen.
Surprised to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for ETN, even Theo, like where do you expect to see him on the board come late August?
So I think he'll be a 5th round running back. I think at 5th round he's about right for him. And I do think Robinson will scoot back a little bit. I think it'll be, we saw DeAndre Swift go in the 5th, 6th round as a rookie. I think that'll be kind of about where we see him. The Cam Akers range. I think that the other thing is, we have preseason this year. So a couple of big plays by ETN is going to drive him right up. And he's the kind of guy that can flash. So I think
such a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if ETN, hauls off an Amir Abdullah run.
Oh my God, Dan, you're reading my mind. I was literally I was just waiting to throw that name.
I remember that one. Yeah.
I swear to God, that's crazy.
We all remember that one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but the other thing is, if ETN goes 13 for 33 or something in a preseason game, that could totally trash his value. But to me, the bigger issue is, what do we think about Urban Meyer as an NFL coach? Because I got some serious questions. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, fine. Obvious 101 pick. Everybody's been, he's got everything going for him. I have no problem with that as a 101. But then to go and take ETN, as a 1st round pick when you've got a free square in Robinson. I mean, you don't need to improve the running back position. You could use this draft capital on someplace that could improve your team a lot in another area. And then, you're signing Tim Tebow. So he can, get his 3 games of service time in and get the full NFL pension. I mean, I just have some serious questions about Urban Meyer as an NFL coach.
So, Dan, real quick on that, because that's a huge topic now, the whole Tebow thing right now. And for me, I look at it so differently than I think most people are talking. Everybody's like, oh, Tebow, they're bringing him in as a tight end, and he's stealing a job from, someone that deserves to have that tight end position and yada, 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 all that. I don't think Urban Meyer is looking at it at all from that perspective. He's trying to build this locker room and bring in a winner and bring in a team motivator and a guy that's going to be there in that 3rd quarter, 4th quarter on the sidelines, going up and down the field to everybody on the bench going, come on, let's go, and lead the team huddle before the game. And he's looking to build a winning attitude. And who better to bring in than Tim Tebow himself? And,
that's a great point, Chris.
Maybe he's the 52nd guy on the roster, the 3rd tight end that dresses, and 2 plays a game he comes in and blocks, as a blocking tight end. There's a lot of tight ends that don't even touch the ball, that they're just there to block. So I think that's the way Urban Meyer is bringing in Tim Tebow.
Or is a goal line bulldozer,
100%. Even better right there, Dan. Bulldozer, put him in the fullback position. He plays on the goal line. He does that little jump pass, that he was known for. So that's my Tebow view.
That's who
was the player you were just talking about before that? I'm sorry, we got off.
Robinson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we were talking about ETN in terms
ETN
of
and Robinson. Yeah,
being a head scratcher for Jacksonville at 25th overall. Well, Urban Meyer's come out and said his heart was broken when Kadarius Toney got taken by the Giants at 20, which means, hey, if the Giants didn't snatch him, most likely Jacksonville was going to add to their wide receiver crew and put Kadarius Toney on this team. And I don't want to say that they panicked because it's an NFL team, but, he's a rookie head coach. Maybe there wasn't any other wide receivers that he loved right there. He said, all right, you know what, let me go get this running back that I really like, even though we shouldn't be taking him right now or whatever. But I know if what he says is true, he had his heart set on Kadarius Toney at 25.
Which is another reason I hate Gettleman, because he just ruined James Robinson. I mean,
There's a lot of reasons to hate Gettleman as a
Oh,
Giant.
yeah, I know. I mean, the guy
watched
finally
every
makes
year.
a good move, trades down in the first round, gets the extra pick in the 2022 draft, the extra first. And then he's got this glorious opportunity at pick 20, and he takes Kadarius Toney of all people, which is, when I think about the Giants' needs, I mean, wide receiver, as you said earlier, Chris, is probably one of the lowest needs. And he knocks Jacksonville off of their pick, so they take ETN. I mean, so it was like this whole, vicious cycle.
Trickle down effect.
Yeah.
Trickle down effect. Yeah.
Of just horrible stuff for for fantasy. I mean, it was just, the worst.
Agreed. And as a Giant fan, I love that we got the number 1 pick from the Bears for the following year.
Yeah.
And we talked about it earlier. I wasn't like crazy at the time with Toney. I actually wanted Rashawn Slater, the offensive lineman from Northwestern. That's who I wanted right then at that pick. But if, we get Toney and then, another first round draft pick, which was supposed to be, a more loaded draft next year, maybe it's to be determined what the Giants did this year, until next year.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if we look at, we talked about landing spots, rookies, looking at, whether it's guys going to their second, third year, are there veterans right now that, again, we don't want to give too many of your secrets. We're hoping people, Men in Black, they're going to forget everything.
Yes, we do. I have to go up against Chris. I want all his secrets.
Chris is going to purposely be asking.
I like you guys, so you know what? I'm gonna open the bag up a little bit tonight. So I'm usually very tight-lipped. My friends in the industry, they know that most of the time I keep everything very, very, to the pocket. But I like you guys, so we'll see.
Appreciate it.
Let's get him going, JD. Come on.
Appreciate that. So just looking at non-rookie, anyone that's going in their second, like I said, third, fourth year, anyone that you feel, a breakout has become the Kleenex of fantasy football these days. But is there someone that you truly believe is going to take the next step that, whether you're investing in or you've already got on your rosters, you feel is, significantly going to take a step this year?
I'll give you 2 guys that I love coming into their second season. Actually, it's Michael Pittman in Indianapolis. They brought back T.Y. Hilton, but he's shot. He's done. I've been off T.Y. Hilton for a while. I don't know. What are you pointing at there? I can't see.
My little Colts helmet there.
Oh yeah. Well, poor T.Y. Hilton. I don't know if they gave him that 1-year contract as a thank you for everything he's done for Indianapolis, but he's passing over the mantle, kind of like how Julio did to Calvin Ridley in Atlanta. I think Pittman will be a legit number 1, for the Colts and in the NFL starting this season. I love Pittman. It's at the wide receiver position. And J.K. Dobbins in Baltimore, I think he's a star. And I think he's right now he's an early third rounder in a lot of drafts I've been seeing going. And I'm shocked that he gets out of the second round. And I'll tell you right now, that's not going to happen in August and September. You won't see him as a third round draft pick.
Do you feel his ceiling is capped in that offense or with Lamar there?
No, I don't. They have a really good offensive line. I like their offense. Yeah, Lamar, likes to take off and run a bunch of them in, but and then there's the Gus Edwards factor. But I think that's why you're seeing his draft price right now not be a late first round or early second round because of what you just said. So if you feel that way, I think the risk is built into his cost to his price right now at that 25 to 30 overall range. And if you can start off your team and add him as your third player, whether you go big wide receiver 1 and big wide running back, and then come back and make him your RB2 or, however way you want to play it.
Yeah, I like that.
I think he's an answer this year, at that price, but it's not going to last. He'll be a top 18 overall pick come September.
Yeah, I think if you can catch him in the third round right now, that's a slam dunk.
Mm-hmm.
I do have more concerns over his ceiling just because of the way that offense tends to fuzz out the touches.
Yeah.
But like you can't argue the talent. I mean, you just can't. So,
right.
And sometimes, it's just that simple. Talent wins out.
Great.
I think some people are not necessarily fading him, but I think he's falling a little bit because the threat of Gus Edwards, which is, does Dobbins take the next big step this year? You would think, they would look to feature their best offensive weapon, after 2 back-to-back playoff losses. So I think that the Dobbins call is great. I do worry about, like Ian said, can we get him some targets?
That's the question.
It doesn't have to be a ton of them, but can we get him enough targets where he's able to get the ball in space and do some of the things he did at Ohio State? I would love to see the Ravens just commit to, even if he's a 2 or 3 reception a game guy there, it would be tremendous. And then
and let's be clear, we do not fear Gus Edwards. We fear Greg Roman.
Right? Yes.
But the price is the price is what it is because of that receptions, Theo. People are worried in today's fantasy football. We need running backs we're drafting early that we know are going to be factors in the pass game. Because when we're playing PPR leagues, full point PPR leagues, for those people out there listening that are non-PPR, which is crazy to me still that people play non-PPR or half-point PPR. When you get into these PPR leagues, if you have a bad day rushing and you're rushing for 17 carries for 55 yards and you don't get in the end zone, you're killing me. But you know what? If you add 5 for 55 in the game, well, you know what? You just snuck out a 15, 16, 17-point game, and that's all I need, as my RB2. Just get me over that 15-point mark, and now we're talking. And now I'm really making money when you're getting me over the 20-point mark every week. So the thing with Dobbins is yes, the 100%. And you compare him to the other second-year backs, the Cam Akers, the DeAndre Swift. You really don't have to worry about that. These guys are going to catch the ball. So Theo, you're right on the money with the reception issues with Dobbins and concerns.
I love your Pittman call. I think it's the parallels with Pittman and Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton, year 2, I think he was going around, I know in FFPC drafts and NFFC drafts, he was the kind of guy you're getting in the 8th, 9th round. He ended up returning wide receiver 2 value. I think Pittman has a lot of the same characteristics. He's a big, strong receiver. He's by far the most wide receiver 1 profile on that team. I like that call a lot, and I think that he's kind of getting lost in the shuffle a little bit because of the CD Lambs and the Justin Jeffersons in that class, the Higgins and the Chase Claypools. All these guys have popped, and Pittman's kind of he right now you can get him in that 9th round, and he has a great chance to pop right there. I love those 2 calls.
Yeah, and you know what? We're mentioning all these names, and as we're mentioning all these names, isn't it amazing, guys, how much talent we have in the second year of players? Like everybody, the Jonathan Taylors, the Akers, the Swifts, the Dobbins, Pittman, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is in his second year. I think he's in a great spot to have a huge bounce back season after people overdrafted him, in my opinion, as a top 6 overall pick last year. But so much talent. Last year's class that they're going to be stars this upcoming year as second-year players.
Now, is there a possibility of disappointment with this year's class because of what we got last year?
I mean, I think so. I think that's a definite possibility. I mean, if you look at the first round this year and you go through the skill players, I mean, who really impresses you so much? There was, there's Jamar Chase and the 3 receivers that we mentioned, right? And then there's Najee Harris, who is going to be the running back position is probably going to fall on him rookie wise as a first rounder along with ETN, but I don't see him having the opportunity that Harris has. So I don't see that rookie class of this upcoming season being as dynamite as last year's was.
Yeah, I think last year's was just historically good. I think people could get caught in the trying to draft too many rookies to try to emulate that success we saw last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Harris at least is going to have unbelievable volume. I mean, he seems like he could get 250 carries in that offense. But yeah, it's last year just spoiled us. You had so much talent in that class.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the way I'm looking at redraft right now is you look at the Dynasty ADP and who's going right now, and then you take a look at redraft and you try to find those players that are higher in Dynasty but are really falling in redraft. And those are the players I want to gamble on. I don't want to gamble on the guys who are like, who are kind of, like mid-late first-round picks in Dynasty, and they're going pretty high in redraft, because to me, that feels real shaky. But if I can get a guy, in the teens rounds in redraft, but he's going, kind of mid to late first round in Dynasty, those are the kind of guys you want to gamble on a little bit, and that's why Terrace Marshall, is a guy we mentioned before, fits right in there. He's a guy that you're going to grab in the mid to late first in Dynasty, but you can grab him super late in redraft. So, that's where I'm looking to make my gambles for the most part in redraft leagues. What do you guys think about that?
I'm going to add to the question, just Chris and Theo, you guys can both answer. Where are you putting these rookies when you're doing a redraft, especially like these big money tournaments? Just because, we're talking about all these rookies, but what Dan just said, basically saying the high-end Dynasty guys, the valuable Dynasty pieces, those are the guys, the obvious guys getting taken. Where are you with rookies when you're building your redraft rosters, Chris? And then we'll go to Theo.
Oh, I don't mind. Every year is a different story. I always say that. That's one of the things I'll always say in terms of anything, whether it's, somebody will say, oh, Chris, you're a big, you want to draft your wide receivers. You're a 0 RB guy. You draft your receivers early. Well, you know what? For years I was. But if you look at my last couple of years now, I build off my running backs more. And this upcoming season, I'm going to look at the draft board. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to study it. And I'm going to see which my best option is. And you got to be fluid. I could go either way. Same thing with rookies. I don't have any problem drafting rookies on a year-to-year basis. I'm not one of those guys that says, okay, well, this rookie, it's talent. And you know what? One of the things that I think we are all, have as an advantage over some of our competitors, because there's a lot of people I talk to that are in the high-stakes market. And I'm like, hey, what'd you think of college? Oh, I don't watch college football. Well, I think we all have an advantage that we're college football guys. We sit down, we see these players ahead of time coming into the league. So, there's certain players that I say to myself, well, when he's ready to be drafted in the NFL, I want that guy. And there's certain guys I don't, I think the big guy that we're going to see this year, JD, I don't know if this is answering your question. I'm sorry, but, Harris, in Pittsburgh, he's going to be, the first rookie off the board, unless he's going to be the first rookie off the board, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Late second round, early third round right now. And we talked about exhibition games this year being back. Well, guess what? He goes 18 carries for 125 yards in that third preseason game. Guess what? Hello, second round in late August, early September. So
that's a good point.
You know what? If he shows it to the mass of people in the preseason and he looks like the undefined bell cow with no competition in Pittsburgh, I got no problem drafting him as early as I want him.
Yeah. And he doesn't have a lot of competition in Pittsburgh. Let's be real.
Nope.
And even as a rookie, when you look at all the rookies and a 2021 production, if you look at the Sermons, the Carters, if these guys are all being overdrafted, I guess you can kind of say, he might be the only guy that's legit running back wise anyways for 2021.
Yeah, it might. And the rookie position, as we've seen these past bunch of years in the NFL, they hit the ground running. There's no reason to be like, oh, he's a rookie. I'll wait another year for him. These rookie running backs, they hit the ground running. Look, and then at the wide receiver position, even more so than it had ever been. Justin Jefferson won people a ton of money last year. So you got to forget about the rookie thing. When you're redrafting, it doesn't matter. If you know what you're getting with these certain players, you can't be scared to take them off the board.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think that rookie running backs have always been, or not, necessarily always, but you could go back to the Zeke Elliott draft, the Saquon Barkley draft. People are not scared to take rookie running backs early. I think you actually find a lot of value in rookie wide receivers if you're willing to take shots on the right rookie wide receiver. I mean, even a guy like Jamar Chase might get pushed down to the late 5th, early 6th round. I personally think he's going to beat his ADP this year right off the top. I think rookie wide receivers, if you're willing to take some shots on them, they can absolutely pay off. And as we saw last year, I believe it was 5 in the top 36, Dan, about 5 rookie wide receivers last year in the top 36, and I think we had 4 in the top 24. So I know this year's class is going to have a couple of guys like that. So you take a shot on some of the names we've talked about. You might get Elijah Moore in the 12th round, and he might end up with 70 catches this year. So I think rookie wide receivers to me is where you find the value, because rookie running backs, nobody's scared. I mean, at the end of the day, they're all going to go where they go. I mean, we saw last year. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
I'll echo that. I think Theo, that is a great point. Exactly the way you said it. Nobody's scared to draft rookie running backs, but you could get some really good value on rookie wide receivers. Mm-hmm. And that's been shown year in and year out now, these last bunch of years. If, in these look at T. Higgins last year, another one, Theo. T. Higgins was a monster, right? It took what, 5 or 6 games, I think, maybe. Once AJ Green again went down, T. Higgins was a monster, and Justin Jefferson, again, like we said, was big time. So
Brandon Ayuk, like you talked about guys who broke out. I mean, Ayuk, you started him in the right weeks. You're in those weeks.
Yes.
It was a fantastic class of wide receivers. One rookie you haven't touched upon, Chris. I mean, you have mentioned him. Talk to me about Kyle Pitts. What are your expectations for Kyle Pitts' career? And then what are your expectations for year 1?
Okay, so I know I went crazy talking about Jamar Chase earlier. You could just pretty much pencil in Kyle Pitts at the tight end position and my love for him. I think Kyle Pitts, in a couple of years, he's George Kittle, Travis Kelce to us in fantasy, top 15 overall, top 20. Lands in a great spot with a veteran quarterback that had Tony Gonzalez years ago, knows where to put Pitts. And it's not, he doesn't land in a spot where he's the focus of the offense, even better. Teams aren't going to be able to focus on him. He's an absolute, matchup nightmare. No one's going to be able to keep up with him in the middle of the field. Straight speed, great hands, absolute stud. Another guy that the price I'm seeing, it might be a little too high rookie season just because of the talent that he has around him. Is he going to have games where he's 8 for 90 and a touchdown or 2? Yeah. Is he going to be that every week where I got to take him in the 5th round and as a 5th tight end off the board, 4th tight end off the board after the, the Kelce, Kittles, Mark Andrews of the world? He's got to fall back a couple rounds probably for me. As much as I love him talent-wise and as much as he's going to be the number 1 tight end off the board for fantasy for the next decade, for this upcoming season alone, if we're talking, the price is a little too high. But he's going to be an absolute stud.
He's a nice sell for a contender right now, in my opinion, if you did draft him.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I mean, the other narrative street point is Arthur Smith came up as a tight ends coach, and he's the coach of the Falcons right now. So, he's going to know what to do with Pitts. What I'd be looking for is if Julio gets traded, then it's wheels all the way up.
Oh yeah. Great point. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and I'm factoring in as if Julio is going to be there. And then you still have, you got to keep Calvin and Julio happy every week. That's a lot of targets right there to go around. So Pitts is playing third fiddle to those guys. So now you want me to pay a 5th round, 6th round draft price and redraft for a tight end that's a rookie. So he's still going to have a learning curve tight end position as a rookie, as they say, is one of the hardest positions to pick up. You want me to play, third, fourth fiddle in the pass game as a rookie, and you want me to pay a 5th round, 6th round price? No, thank you.
Well, let's have some fun with Pitts. Let's go around the horn. How many targets do you think Pitts is going to get his rookie year? I'll start. I'm going to throw out 95. JD?
Yeah, without kind of diving into rookie tight ends, I don't know. I'll go 65.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think Dan nailed it. Hawkinson last year was 100 targets on the nose, I believe.
Was he really? See, I have no. I was going to ask, like, somebody give me some kind of guideline here. What is a rookie tight end?
Throwing you on the spot, JD.
Year.
Yeah, so if Hawkinson's getting 100 in year 2, Hawkinson was also a top 10 pick. It's going to be hard for me to see. It's going to be hard for me to see Pitts crack 100 targets, and I think the way he's being drafted right now, right now he's going ahead of guys like Noah Fant, Dallas Goedert, Logan Thomas. A lot of these drafts. I mean, he's a 20-year-old. I'll go 96. I'll go one over Dan. But like you guys said, if
Mr. Price is right.
Julio Jones goes. I mean, Julio Jones leaves. I mean, like Dan said, I mean, you could talk about him getting in that 110 plus range. I mean, if he gets 110 to 120 targets, I mean, it's scary what he could do even at 20 years old. So, I think Dan's about right on that.
Yeah, it's a great number. I would have said 90 to 105 right there. So, I'll say 94. How about that?
All right.
You
guys both.
You know what?
Thanks.
Yeah, we've seen. You better hit 95 on the money for you to win.
Right on the money, Dan.
I'm sticking to my 65, man. I'm looking at TJ.
JD's a guy
going to need an injury. You're going to need an injury then. At 65.
JD's going one target. I'll take one target.
Yeah. But you do have to love him for the quarterback that he's attached to in this offense, and like you said, Dan, the head coach as well, and the success Matt Ryan has had with tight ends through the years. He made Austin Hooper a star.
Right.
And they still have Hayden Hurst that's got to get something next year also, and they probably have the opportunity to play double tight end with the two of them in the middle of the field with Cal, and then. Can't forget about the other weapons that they have too. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be an interesting offense, that's for sure.
Yeah, the one guy I was taking a lot weight in best balls was Russell Gage, and I think Pitts just crushes him.
Oh
just absolutely crushes him. I mean, I'm so off of Gage right now, and yeah.
Yeah, snap wise, it's is it going to be there now? I know Julio always misses his time now. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. Hope that didn't go through your ears, everybody. But Julio always misses his time, and that's where Russell Gage is going to shine.
Yeah, that's basically his only route to targets right now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, we're going to do some OTC quick before we shut this thing down. That's some on the clock. Chris, basically, I'm going to throw a couple names at you guys. I might change up the ones that I initially put on the sheet too, just to stick to what we're doing tonight. I'll go to you first, Chris. Do you prefer Sutton or Galladay?
Sutton or Galladay? That's a good one. I love Courtland Sutton. He's healthy, hopefully coming right back into the season, and I think he hits the ground right where he picked up. Give me Sutton.
Wow.
I like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
This coming from a Giants fan too. I mean,
yeah.
Don't overlook this. I mean, that's serious.
I'm a big Courtland Sutton guy, and I was all in on him. He hurt me bad going down.
Last year.
Yeah, last year. But I really thought he was going to be a top 10 wide receiver last year and a legit wide receiver one in the NFL.
One of my favorite targets this offseason, especially best ball.
Mm-hmm.
How about TJ Hawks or Kyle Pitts?
I'm sorry, is this for me or?
Yeah,
we'll go to Chris first.
TJ Hawkinson, huge second year leap especially with the lack of targets and receivers in that offense. The whole offense is going to be Swift and Hawkinson for me. Hawkinson can be a top 5 tight end next year easily.
You guys disagree, Dan, Theo?
Dude,
I'm big on. I love Hawkinson in Dynasty and Redraft. I mean, I think he could get it might not happen, but he could get Darren Waller-like targets next year just based on what they have at wide receiver. I mean, Swift will get a lot of targets. Hawkinson will get a lot of targets. And I think having a little bit more robotic quarterback like Goff might actually help him a little bit. I mean, Stafford's taking shots downfield. I think that Goff's going to run the offense, and I think Swift and Hawkinson will both be big beneficiaries in terms of receiving.
And we got to go down narrative street once again. Dan Campbell, position, tight end.
Tight end.
There you go.
That's right.
Yep.
Quick one. Speaking of tight end, Dan, I put this poll on. You and I were on the clock. I mean, I had a feeling we were going to go one direction, but I had so many shares of this guy in the last couple of months that I was like, you know what, let's put this up. It's kind of interesting because of the dynamic of each guy. I'll go to you first, Chris. Tight end position. You like Fitzgerald out there in Tennessee, or you like Blake Jarwin coming back from injury?
Let's go Fitzgerald for this one. Jarwin will have those 3 or 4 big games where he's, the 6 for 85 and a touchdown in that offense. He's definitely in the better offense, but you know what? Again, let's go back to the lack of targets in a particular offense and who could play a bigger role. Whereas Jarwin is going to be that 4th, 5th option in Dallas's offense every week. Fitzgerald might play the second, he might be the second fiddle, the second target to A.J. Brown a lot of weeks. So, give me Fitzgerald over Jarwin for the upside.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone disagree?
No, I'll agree, and I'll take it a step further. I think that Dalton Schultz is going to challenge Jarwin. I think Schultz did enough last year. When the offense was doing poorly, we haven't really heard a big vote of confidence out of Dallas. We haven't heard anybody singing Jarwin's praises this offseason, saying, this is the piece we're getting back. Schultz is still there, and I think that that's a messy situation. I'm sure we'll have some clarity by late August, but that's a tight end room to avoid. And Fitzgerald looks like you guys said, I mean, the guy played last year. He filled in for Humphreys in the slot, and he played it. I think he out-targeted Jonnu a lot of games. I mean, I think Fitzgerald could be a real sleeper this year.
Right. Yeah. And when it comes to tight ends, I mean, basically you're looking at 2 things. You're looking at targets and touchdowns, right? And if you can figure out touchdowns for tight ends, then A, more power to you, and B, please tell me your secrets, because I would really, really like to know them. But if you can't guess the touchdowns in advance, then I'd rather be able to guess the targets in advance. And one of my favorite follows when it comes to tight ends is a guy named @Koopa Fiasco, Andrew Cooper. And he's really, really big on, trying to guess who's going to have the best tight end targets. And, he's looking for those guys where a tight end is going to be the number 2 or at worst a high number 3 receiver in the offense, and trying to find those guys and just sticking with those guys as his tight end targets. Once you get past like the big 3, the big 5, whatever you want to call them, then just basically either punting at tight end or grabbing one of these guys that he really feels is going to get those big targets. And it's tough to see Jarwin getting that kind of target share in the Dallas offense. I mean, obviously Dallas is going to have a big, they're going to have a lot of pass attempts, but putting Jarwin up, with Schultz, and then you've got those 3 wide receivers, and you got Zeke Elliott. I mean, where's Jarwin going to get that many targets? I mean, you're just betting on the touchdowns at this point.
Right. And there's a lot of weeks in that Dallas offense of Jarwin getting 1 target.
Right.
That's coming. So if you can guess which week is the Jarwin week, you're a better person than me.
Yeah, and you better be playing DFS if you're that person.
Right.
So the poll ended up way closer than I thought. 54% in favor of Fitzgerald versus Jarwin.
Yeah.
Let's
Fitzgerald, I mean, to get back to the other side of it, I mean, look at who's left in Tennessee. I mean, you got A.J. Brown, you got Fitzgerald, and you've got Josh Reynolds and who else?
Which is a sneaky pickup. I like that Josh Reynolds coming in now to tennis.
Yeah, great best ball guy right there, Josh Reynolds. Mm-hmm. Some platforms still have the LAR beside his name for some reason.
Yeah.
Last one, guys. My favorite position to talk about, running back. I'm going to change up what I had on the show sheet again, just based on what we talked about. Do we like Pollard or Trey Sermon, Chris?
Ooh, Pollard. Tony Pollard for me, just because I'll say there's only a certain handful of guys that, at the running back position, backup running back position, where the starter goes down, it's a league winner. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what Tony Pollard is in that Dallas offense. If Zeke goes down early in that season and you got Tony Pollard sitting in, on that back end of the bench as your running back 5 or 6 that you got in the 11th, hello home run city. Because if Zeke went down the day before the opening draft of your season, you best believe Tony Pollard is a top 25 overall pick. And so, it's give me the home run ability for Tony Pollard over over Sermon for this upcoming season.
Yeah. I love it. You guys have anything to add?
No, I mean, that's the contest league mentality right there. I mean, just to put it in a nutshell. I mean, if you're drafting your home league, you might take Trey Sermon just because, he's going to get more guaranteed touches and, probably going to, have some pretty good weeks. But, if you're looking for putting together that team that can win a tournament, Pollard, no doubt.
And I draft that way, guys. I'm one of those guys that on every one of my teams, you'll see as my RB4 or 5, one of those home run picks. Oh, yeah. Last year, every one of my rosters, probably you looked at it, there was the Alexander Madison. There was the Tony Pollard. There was Chase Edmonds, which, I was hoping, that Drake would go down and Edmonds would be in that offense as the RB1. I'm always going to have one of those home run lottery tickets on my team at the running back position and make it a point, when I'm on that clock to get one of those to one of those guys. Not where I need him every week, and I know he's sitting on my bench, but 3 or 4 teams starting running back goes down. Well, now I have a big time RB1 on my hands.
And you got to design your team too, so you can keep them on your roster all year, so that whenever that does happen, you're not sitting there going, "Oh man, I just dropped him in week 6."
Mike Davis, Carolina, last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there you go.
League winner. Chris, you've been a GOAT in more ways than one. You even pushed this thing to a double epi. We're at 2 hours, I think we're at.
Oh wow, look at that.
There you go.
I'll tell you what, boys, it felt like it was 20 minutes. So
it was awesome.
You guys.
This was an awesome one.
I love it because we asked you and we kind of took advantage, but we appreciate how awesome you've been tonight. Again, guys, check them out at The Athletic. Check out the podcast. Just follow them on Twitter. Remind the people your Twitter handle. You don't have it up in front of you, so I know there's 3 letters at the end.
It's very simple. It's Chris Vaccaro, GST. GST stands for Greenwich Street Tavern, the name of my bar in New York City. So if anybody's ever in New York City, when you guys come to New York City,
there we go.
And we always start off the high stakes weekend every year at my bar. We got all the high stakes players come in, and that's how we kick off the weekend. So
nice.
That's what it is. Chris Vaccaro, GST on Twitter.
We appreciate you, Chris, man. Tonight was awesome. Was beyond expectation. Theo, the Greminger, I know you're going to be over at that bar probably by the weekend if it's open down there. But
no doubt.
Remind the people where they can find all your goodness that you're dropping, whether it's in the district or out there in the Breakout Finder, anywhere else people can find you.
So you can find me here on the GOAT District. We have more of these triflexing pods coming up with Andrew Schellenberg. We're talking about our build in the new RotoViz Triflex format on FFPC. It's an awesome format for anybody looking for one. You can find my writing on Breakout Finder and PlayerProfiler.com. I have the waiver wire column on Player Profiler this year. And you can find me here in the district. This was an awesome pod tonight. I really enjoyed it, fellas.
Yeah,
Yes.
man. Ton of fun and ton of goodness. Dan, I think you'd agree. Your hair looks like it agrees, man. That flow's just on point tonight.
Man,
Yeah,
that's
jealous
just,
of that.
it's going wild. Man, it's such a great pod. So yeah, I 100%. You know, if you're looking for me out on Twitter, I'm out there for sure. Feel free to hit me up, ask me any questions. You know, if you're asking me questions, I'll probably give you some good answers. If you're looking for me to just, you know, like throw you things out of the blue, it's probably not going to happen. If you're looking for, you know, exactly what I'm thinking, this is the place to find it, right here on the GOAT District, and nowhere else. Because I mean, you know, I value those people who listen to this pod, and they're going to get a little bit more from me than just the average Joe out on Twitter. So that's the way it is.
100%, guys. And like I say every week, make sure you stick with us. I mean, not only is this dropping on the weekly, you've got Theo, Andrew dropping the Triflex edition. You've got John dropping Commissioner Evaluation. We've got a couple other new shows coming on the network. So no matter the format, man, if you want to win your fantasy league, I mean, we showed you tonight, we bring in a guy like Chris, just dropping 2 hours of serious knowledge. Our supporters, man, we can't thank them enough. Make sure you visit them, myffpc.com. High stakes, low stakes, any format you want to play, it's on there. Viridian Global, super comfortable, super, I mean, affordable. And any, you know, you're not finding, you know, Jermaine Chase or you're not finding like a rookie T-shirt or a CEH T-shirts or a Kyle Pitts T-shirt anywhere. You're finding it at Viridian Global. So you're into fantasy. You've listened to us for 2 hours. There's no way that you're not going to find some goodness on there. And then finally, our friends at Dynasty Depot, the FFPC. Build those dinos, go on the Dynasty Depot, buy and sell those bad boys. I know I'm going to sell my my defending champ 500. I'm going to list that thing. That's my entry into the Dynasty Depot. I've been waiting for the rookie draft because I had no first or second round picks. So now that my stacked up roster is ready to be put for sale, look for that on the Dynasty Depot. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in. As usual, press the subscribe button if you haven't done it already, the like button to show the support, ring that bell. We'll check you back later next week in the district. Be safe, be happy, and I'll repeat myself. We'll check you all later.
GOAT District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's and I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.